Welcome to Top 1 Tutorial. I'm Kyo Kong. With over a decade of wedding and service management experience, I've worked and trained across Canada, Hong Kong, Macau, and Malaysia, helping to shape the above sectors with a truly global perspective. My professional journey started with a passion for creating memorable experiences. From leading my service team to win the Service and Concierge Award with the Hong Kong Management Association, to coordinating over 1,000 weddings at iMay Wedding and Event Production Limited. As a guest lecturer at top institutions like the Hong Kong Design Institute and Open University of Hong Kong, I've had the privilege of nurturing the next generation of talent in these fields. I know what it takes to deliver top-tier service, and I'm here to help you reach that level too. Whether you are looking to excel in the above sectors, our courses will provide you with practical insights that have helped countless learners secure their dream jobs or earn promotions. By completing most of our courses, you will earn a valuable certificate or even a reference from Top 1 Tutorial, setting you apart in your career journey. Those who stand out will have the chance to join our exclusive advanced tutorials, opportunities that are few and far between. Welcome to Goodbye to Overseas Love Trademark Volunteer Project. I am your volunteer coach, Professor Kong. This session mainly designed to our exploration of life and death education, a topic that intertwines philosophical insights with practical ethical considerations. Let's look at the first one, understanding life and death. Philosophers and educators have long sought to define what it means to live and die. For instance, early modern philosophy treated life and death as more than biological processes. They were seen as central to understanding the human condition. Today, this extends to ethical discussions, where we consider questions like what makes life meaningful, or what does a good death look like? These inquiries are not just abstract, but guide practical applications in fields like medicine and education. To illustrate, think about the global shift towards palliative care. This healthcare approach, focusing on comfort rather than cure, is deeply influenced by philosophical insights about quality of life and human dignity. Without an understanding of what it means to live well, it becomes impossible to care for someone approaching the end of their life meaningfully. Second, philosophical foundations. Early thinkers like René Descartes and Margaret Cavendish grappled with metaphysical questions about vitality and existence. Cavendish, for example, challenged traditional divisions between animate and inanimate objects, offering insights that blurred the lines of what constitutes life. These debates laid the groundwork for modern discussions about artificial intelligence, cloning, and the ethics of extending life artificially. Another example is the theological contributions of Leibniz, who saw death as a transition rather than an end. His perspective shapes how many view the afterlife, influencing practices in religious and secular contexts alike. Next, relevance. Today, why is this relevant now? In today's interconnected and aging societies, these ideas help us address challenges like elder care, climate change, and even education itself. For instance, the introduction of courses on life and death in schools and universities aims to help students develop empathy, resilience, and an ethical approach to decision-making. These lessons are also practical. They help us understand topics like organ donation, living wills, and the psychological impacts of grief. As we move forward, think about how these discussions impact not only your personal life, but also societal policies and norms. The ultimate goal is to equip you with a thoughtful, compassionate framework for understanding both life and death. Let's delve into how philosophers have explored mortality shedding light on our understanding of life and death. Start with first point, Margaret Cavendish's vitalism. Margaret Cavendish, a 17th century philosopher and poet, challenged conventional views of her time by questioning the divide between animate, living, and inanimate, non-living matter. Her concept of vitalism suggested that even inanimate objects might possess forms of life or agency. Imagine how this perspective reshapes discussions about artificial intelligence today. If life is not limited to traditional definitions, could machines or ecosystems hold forms of life? Cavendish also emphasized interconnectedness, arguing that human life cannot be isolated from the world it inhabits. This principle influences modern environmental ethics, where we consider how our existence impacts ecosystems and the planet's health. Next, Leibniz on immortality. Leibniz proposed that death is not an endpoint but a transformation, a transition to a new state of existence. His theological ideas were deeply rooted in metaphysics, where he envisioned souls as indestructible units of life, or monads. This belief in continuity offers comfort and purpose, influencing how many religions and philosophies perceive the afterlife. For instance, it underpins ideas of reincarnation in Eastern traditions and the Christian promise of eternal life. Such frameworks can help individuals facing grief or existential questions find solace and meaning. Last point is Spinoza's ethical meditations. Spinoza viewed life and death as part of a natural order, rejecting the notion of death as a tragic event. Instead, he argued for understanding mortality as integral to living ethically. For Spinoza, living well meant aligning oneself with reason, striving for self awareness, and accepting one's place in the broader fabric of existence. For example, Spinoza's ideas inspire modern movements like mindfulness and secular ethics, where embracing mortality is seen as a way to reduce anxiety and lead a balanced life. In healthcare, this could translate to helping patients accept terminal diagnosis with dignity, focusing on quality rather than the quantity of life. These philosophical perspectives on mortality aren't just theoretical. They shape how we think, behave, and approach end of life care. They encourage us to balance spiritual, ethical, and practical considerations when reflecting on what it means to live and die well. Communication is at the heart of navigating end of life scenarios, both within families and with healthcare providers. Let's break this down into three critical dimensions. Go to the left point, family roles. During what is often called terminal time, families are faced with an acute awareness of limited time. This period begins with the diagnosis of a terminal illness and ends at the moment of death. It is an emotionally charged time where relationships are prioritized. For example, some families use this time to resolve past conflicts, while others focus on creating positive memories, such as sharing stories or engaging in rituals like writing letters for future milestones. Open and honest communication during this phase can lead to stronger connections and fewer regrets. Questions such as how should we discuss difficult topics like funeral arrangements? Or how can we ensure everyone has time with our loved one? Often arise. Then in the middle, cultural sensitivity. Different cultures have unique approaches to death and dying. In some societies, death is openly discussed and rituals are celebrated, as in Mexico's Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. In others, such as many Asian cultures, discussing death might be considered taboo, which can hinder planning and preparation. Healthcare providers and families must work to understand and respect these cultural differences. For instance, offering culturally appropriate care, such as involving spiritual leaders or honoring specific dietary restrictions, can make a significant difference in the patient's and family's experience. Last one, healthcare engagement. Healthcare providers play a crucial role in facilitating end-of-life conversations. Studies show that when doctors actively involve families in decision-making, patients experience greater dignity and clarity in their care. For example, discussing options like hospice care early can help families focus on comfort rather than cure, avoiding unnecessary medical interventions. However, these conversations require empathy and clarity. Families often feel overwhelmed by medical jargon or emotional distress. A helpful strategy might be for a doctor to ask, "What do you value most at this stage of life?" rather than presenting a series of treatments without context. Ultimately, mastering these communication dynamics allows families and caregivers to provide care that aligns with the mutual culture and emotional needs of the individual and their loved ones. Making decisions about end-of-life care often involves navigating complex ethical challenges. Let's examine three primary aspects of these dilemmas. Left, top corner is autonomy and advanced directives. Autonomy, the right of individuals to make decisions about their own lives, is a cornerstone of ethical care. Advanced directives like living wills are legal documents that allow patients to specify their preferences for medical treatment if they can no longer communicate. These directives empower individuals to maintain control over their care, ensuring that decisions reflect their values and wishes. For example, someone might use an advanced directive to indicate they do not want life-sustaining measures like a ventilator in the event of severe illness. However, not everyone prepares these documents, which can leave families uncertain about what their loved one would have wanted. Imagine the emotional strain when family members disagree on whether to pursue aggressive treatments, and this is why early and clear communication is vital. The bottom one, role of families. Families often find themselves balancing their own emotional needs with the patient's expressed wishes. For instance, a child might struggle to let go of a parent who has requested to forego further treatment, feeling torn between honoring their wishes and wanting to extend their time together. This emotional tension highlights the importance of conversations that explore not just medical preferences, but also the emotional impact of those choices. It's helpful to frame these discussions around questions like, "What do you want your legacy to be?" or "How can we honor your wishes while supporting one another emotionally?" Right-hand side is the last point, healthcare providers. Responsibilities. Healthcare professionals face ethical challenges too. They must respect patient autonomy while ensuring decisions are medically sound and compassionate. For example, a doctor might recommend hospice care when curative treatments are no longer effective. This can be difficult for families who associate hospice with giving up hope. Providers can address this by reframing hospice as a choice that prioritizes comfort and quality of life. Using empathetic language such as, "Our focus is now on ensuring your loved one is as comfortable as possible," can help families see this transition as an act of care rather than a surrender. These ethical challenges remind us that end-of-life care is not just about medical interventions, but about honoring human dignity, fostering understanding, and providing support during one of life's most profound transitions. Reflecting on mortality is essential for living a meaningful life. Philosophers have long provided insights into how contemplating death can shape our approach to existence. Let's explore three key perspectives. Come to the first point, Locke on mediocrity. John Locke believed that life should be lived with moderation and purpose. He argued that human beings should focus on what they can control and not be consumed by fears of the unknown, such as death. By embracing this approach, Locke suggested that we can prepare ourselves for death by leading lives centered on virtue and meaningful relationships. For example, consider the modern emphasis on work-life balance. It echoes Locke's idea of mediocrity, encouraging us to focus on personal fulfillment and family connections rather than chasing external accolades that may ultimately leave us empty. Okay then, Spinoza on unity. Baruch Spinoza took a more integrated approach, viewing life and death as two parts of a single natural process. He believed that accepting death as an inevitable aspect of life helps us live more authentically. Spinoza's concept of aligning mind and body, living in harmony with nature and reason, serves as a foundation for practices like mindfulness and meditation. Think about how mindfulness techniques encourage us to focus on the present moment rather than worry about the future. This philosophy aligns closely with Spinoza's views, helping individuals reduce anxiety about mortality by embracing the here and now. Let's go to the bottom last, philosophical depths. Philosophers like Hume and Kant grapple with the moral dimensions of death, including controversial topics like suicide. David Hume, for example, questioned the moral condemnation of suicide, arguing that individuals should have autonomy over their own lives, including how they end. While this remains a sensitive and divisive topic, it underscores the need for societies to approach such issues with empathy and understanding. In practical terms, these reflections are especially relevant today in discussions about euthanasia and physician-assisted dying. Debates around these topics often invoke similar ethical questions about autonomy, morality, and the role of suffering. By contemplating these perspectives, we learn to approach death not with fear, but with a sense of purpose, using these lessons to shape how we live our lives and support others through their end-of-life journeys. Education about life and death equips individuals with the tools to navigate one of life's most universal yet challenging realities. Let's examine three key aspects of practical education in this area. First, integration into curriculum. Incorporating life and death education into school or university programs fosters resilience and empathy. For example, courses in philosophy, ethics, or social studies can include modules on mortality, grief, and end-of-life decision-making. These classes provide students with frameworks to process their emotions and make informed decisions in real-life scenarios. Imagine a high school class discussing living wills or how different cultures honor the deceased. This not only educates students but also normalizes discussions around death, making it easier for them to engage in such conversations as adults. Then should be workshops and seminars. Beyond formal education, interactive workshops create safe spaces where people can explore their fears, beliefs, and questions about mortality. For example, death cafes are community events where individuals gather to talk about death over coffee and snacks. These discussions are not morbid, but rather an opportunity to confront mortality openly and supportively. Another example is healthcare seminars for professionals, which train doctors and nurses to communicate empathetically with patients and families facing end-of-life decisions. Such workshops improve the quality of care and reduce emotional strain on caregivers. The third one, community outreach. Community programs like Before I Die festivals or public art projects focused on legacy building encourage people to think about death in constructive ways. For instance, chalkboards with prompts like "Before I die, I want to" allow participants to reflect on their priorities and share their hopes. These initiatives break societal taboos around death and promote a culture of openness. When people feel more comfortable discussing mortality, they are better prepared to plan for it and support loved ones through the process. Practical education not only prepares individuals for the realities of death, but also enriches their understanding of life, fostering a compassionate and resilient society. Our perceptions of a desirable or dreaded death are deeply personal and often shaped by cultural, emotional, and ethical factors. Let's explore what defines these experiences. Okay, let's start with defining a good death. A good death is often characterized by conditions that ensure dignity, comfort, and a sense of closure. For many, this includes being free from pain, surrounded by loved ones, and having their wishes honored. For example, hospice care often aligns with these values by focusing on palliative care rather than invasive treatments. Imagine someone passing away peacefully at home with family present and all necessary preparations made, such as a living will and a plan for their final arrangements. This kind of death can provide a sense of peace for both the individual and their loved ones. Then we will discuss avoiding dreaded deaths. Common fears about death include becoming a burden to others, losing one's independence, or enduring prolonged suffering. These fears can be mitigated through proper planning and support systems. For instance, advance directives and open discussions about preferences can prevent scenarios where individuals receive treatments they do not want. A dreaded death might involve isolation in an intensive care unit, with no family nearby and no clarity on what the patient would have preferred. This highlights the importance of communication and planning in avoiding such outcomes. Continues to talk about the 3 points of this topic, shaping memories. Families play a crucial role in creating positive memories during end-of-life experiences. Honoring the individual's wishes, sharing stories, and participating in meaningful rituals can turn a potentially traumatic experience into a celebration of life. For example, some families use memory boxes or create digital tributes to honor their loved one's legacy. This process not only supports the dying individual, but also helps the family cope with grief and build a shared narrative of love and connection. Understanding these perspectives helps us frame death not as something to fear, but as a part of life that can be approached with intention and care. Coping with mortality is a deeply personal journey, and individuals adopt various strategies to manage the emotional and psychological challenges associated with it. Let's discuss 3 common approaches. First, humor's role. While it may seem counterintuitive, humor often helps people face mortality by easing tension and providing a sense of control. For instance, some terminally ill patients use humor to deflect fear and focus on the lighter aspects of life. Jokes, storytelling, or even themed celebrations such as living wakes allow individuals to share laughter with their loved ones. Consider a patient who hosts a bucket list party, sharing funny anecdotes and aspirations. This approach fosters connection and lightness, making death feel less daunting for everyone involved. Humor can also serve as a coping mechanism for caregivers, helping them navigate emotionally taxing situations. Second, we look at spiritual comfort. Spirituality offers solace by providing a framework for understanding death and the possibility of an afterlife. For many, faith becomes a source of strength, guiding them through loss and uncertainty. Rituals like prayer, meditation, or attending religious services help individuals process grief and find peace. For example, some people turn to their faith communities for support, participating in ceremonies that reinforce their beliefs and provide a sense of belonging. Spiritual care is often integrated into hospice programs, recognizing its value in holistic end-of-life care. Finally is avoidant behaviors. On the other hand, avoidance can be a common coping mechanism. People may avoid discussing death out of fear or discomfort, delaying important decisions such as creating wills or having end-of-life conversations. While avoidance might provide temporary relief, it often complicates matters later, leaving families unprepared and uncertain. A practical solution is to introduce gentle prompts such as, "What matters most to you as you age?" These conversations can help individuals gradually open up, making it easier to confront and plan for mortality. By understanding these strategies, we can better support ourselves and others in facing life's ultimate reality with compassion and preparedness. Communication about end-of-life issues can be challenging, but addressing barriers head-on is essential for improving outcomes and fostering understanding. Let's examine three key barriers and strategies to overcome them. Let's go through fear and stigma first. Fear of mortality and cultural stigmas surrounding death often prevent open conversations. For example, some individuals worry that discussing death might hasten it, a belief rooted in cultural or superstitious attitudes. This reluctance can result in a lack of planning, leaving families unprepared during critical moments. To counter this, public awareness campaigns can normalize conversations about death. Initiatives like the Conversation Project encourage families to discuss their preferences for end-of-life care in a non-threatening, supportive environment. This approach helps individuals and families feel more comfortable tackling these difficult topics. Then next point, educational tools. Many people lack basic knowledge about options such as palliative care, hospice services, or advanced directives. Misunderstandings can lead to unnecessary suffering or conflicts when decisions must be made under stress. For instance, some families may resist hospice care, thinking it means giving up hope rather than understanding it as a compassionate choice focused on quality of life. Workshops, seminars, and online resources can demystify these options. For example, a hospital might host a series of public lectures on navigating end-of-life decisions, providing tools and clarity to attendees. Finally, we need to discuss the point of collaboration with families. Family dynamics can pose additional challenges, particularly when members have differing opinions about the best course of action. For example, one sibling might insist on aggressive treatment for a parent, while another supports comfort care, leading to tension and confusion. Healthcare providers can play a critical role here by mediating conversations. Using empathetic communication, they can help families focus on the patient's values and wishes. Questions like, "What would your loved one want in this situation?" can redirect the discussion and build consensus. By addressing these barriers, we can create a culture where end-of-life communication is less intimidating, more collaborative, and ultimately more supportive for everyone involved. As we conclude, let's reflect on the key lessons learned from our exploration of life and death education. This topic is not just about understanding mortality. It's about using that understanding to enrich life and build a more compassionate society. Okay, for the philosophical insights. Philosophers like Locke, Spinoza, and Hume have taught us to see life and death as interconnected. encouraging us to live ethically and with intention. Their teachings remind us to focus on what truly matters, whether it's relationships, personal growth, or contributing to the greater good. By contemplating mortality, we gain clarity on our values and priorities. Then we have discussed educational approaches. Education plays a critical role in preparing individuals to face life's realities. Integrating discussions about mortality into curricula builds emotional resilience and encourages ethical decision-making. Programs like death cafes and community workshops help normalize these conversations, empowering individuals to engage with these themes without fear or stigma. The final would be practical strategies. Practical tools like advanced directives, open family communication, and hospice care enable individuals to navigate end-of-life decisions with dignity and confidence. These strategies emphasize preparation and empathy, ensuring that the end of life is as meaningful as the journey itself. To sum up, life and death education is a call to action, not just to prepare for the inevitable, but to embrace life more fully. By understanding mortality, we can create a future where compassion, dignity, and thoughtful decision-making guide us through life's most profound moments. This slide provides a list of references used to support the concepts and examples discussed throughout this session. These sources offer additional insights into the life and death education topic. Feel free to explore these resources to deepen your understanding and apply these learnings in avoiding regret and creating your better life with your love. I have also attached the resource contents on my site for your self-learning. For respecting the right of all the authors, please make sure the entire document from this channel is for educational purposes only. Remember not to share or use the sources for any reasons without the author's permit. Thank you for joining this exploration of life and death education. Before we close, here are some resources and opportunities to continue your journey. About the volunteer initiatives. Our Goodbye to Overseas Love project invites volunteers to engage with communities in discussions about life and death, promoting awareness and support, whether through educational outreach or service programs. There are many ways to get involved. For any additional resources, please visit our website at keokung.com for more information on upcoming events, research updates, and service opportunities. If you have questions or would like personalized guidance, feel free to email us at admin@keokung.com. This work is a collaborative effort, grounded in the belief that understanding mortality helps us build more connected, meaningful lives. Thank you for your time and engagement, and let's continue to support each other on this important journey.